on my right-hand side, and Jeremy and Ben from Stericycle. And also we've got Marshall Lager, who's a consultant from Third Idea Consulting, and he'll be giving us a little bit of his insights around how social media can help collaboration between your organisations. So I assume quite a few of you have never seen this slide before, but it is our safe harbour statement. So, and obviously we are a listed company on the stock exchange, so we do obviously are legally required to show this, and some of what we talk about today may include future-looking forward statements. Okay, right. So Peter Aubrey, Principal Sales Engineer. What am I going to talk about? I've got a couple of slides just to really set the scene for what I feel this session, what I wanted to cover in this session. And I was trying to think of a way to actually introduce what collaboration between sales and service is all about to me. And I came across a yin and yang. And for me, I think this really does sum up how traditionally the sales and service organisations have been seen in your companies. In the very separate entities, collaboration between the two can sometimes be quite tricky and quite difficult due to a number of technical or organisational or employee reasons or whatever it may be. And as Marshall will explain later on, though, it's not until obviously a customer buys from you that they really start to experience your service organisation. And it's often the fact that the service reps are then going to be in the best position to actually identify cross-selling and upselling opportunities. And conversely, salespeople may be the first people to hear about customer service issues that are happening at all. So over the course of this presentation, what we'll see is how sales and service, yes, they are different, but in reality, they're extremely closely related. And it's how collaboration between the two can really help your companies to succeed in today's environment. Okay, let me just grab a quick drink of water. Okay. So, don't worry, I'm not going to try and sell you a car. The reason why I put this slide up is I always like to try and think of real-world scenarios that I can identify with when I'm trying to understand new concepts and things. And for me, you know, the experience you have when you own a car, I think is a really good example of sales and service organisations working together. Because, and also I think it's a good experience that probably most of us in this room can identify with owning a car. Now, once we buy a car from a dealership, of course, there's the dealership themselves know there's a lot of money left on the table that can be taken out during the course of the life cycle of that car itself. So we're going to be spending money on servicing, on repairs, on accessories like alloy wheels and things like that. Now, I think that's known as pimping one's ride, but I'm not quite sure, I'll be honest. And really, there has to be really good collaboration between the sales and service departments to ensure that I'm going to continue to be a customer when I'm buying a car and buy cars from them in the future. Now, they need to know, obviously, what engine I bought, what accessories I've got on that car, so they can send me automated reminders to say, well, you need to bring your car in for a service every 10,000 miles if it's a petrol engine, if it's 5,000 miles if it's a diesel engine or whatever. But finally, it's, you know, again, the service environment is really going to feel the pain of me calling them up saying, well, I've been trying to get your damn car seat, you know, child seat into the back of my 1 Series for the past 3 hours. And they're going to realise, of course, that's going to be a much easier task if I've got a BMW 3 Series or 5 Series instead. Therefore, it's a you know, fantastic cross-selling and upselling opportunity there. Okay, so now, collaboration, though, not only will it increase revenue, it'll also improve customer satisfaction as well. And of course, customer satisfaction is critical to companies. We all know, we've all seen the quotes saying that for every 1 person that complains, there's 25 people that don't complain. For every a dissatisfied customer will actually tell between 10 to 20 other people how dissatisfied they are with the products and services that they're receiving. And of course, social media in that context has kind of increased that problem and made the damage that can be caused increase tenfold. So even if they don't complain, it's often this customer service environment or the servicing environment itself which is a differentiator, which allows you to ensure that, you know, repeat customers become loyal customers. And what I mean by loyal customers is customers that will actually still buy from you even though your competitors are offering possibly even better pricing deals or whatever it may be, but they feel that loyalty to buy from you instead of your competitors. But of course, one of the problems has always been coming back to the collaboration issue, is that sales and service are working on separate systems a lot of the time. It's often been quite difficult to find the right systems which covers the whole spread of requirements, a diverse range of requirements that a sales organisation and service organisations have at the right price, of course. And therefore, what we find is that we have lots of different systems in the organisation, all kind of linked together with point-to-point integrations that are expensive to maintain, difficult to implement, and also tend to break fairly easily. So by having a single system, customer service and sales guys can work together, and it will really does allow them to identify, for service people to identify cross-selling opportunities, for sales people to identify customer service issues. And I think this is one thing which I know we do internally at Salesforce, is, we have our service guys sat around looking at the dashboards, identifying the problem areas, so that they can reprioritize their workloads according to whether, maybe some deals are coming down in the pipeline for any of our customers. So really, putting a best foot forward. Okay. Right, that's the boring bit over. So what I'd like to now do is introduce Celia Hayward and Chris, who will come up on stage and then give you a little talk about how they're using Salesforce in their business. Okay, Celia, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I am Celia Hayward, and I work for First Data, and we're probably one of those big companies you've never heard of. But if you buy anything using anything besides cash, there's a very high likelihood somewhere in the background we've been making sure that your money is securely moved from your account to the merchant's account. And that's what we do. We do payment processing. Right now, we have a global deployment. We're currently in 8 countries. We have 4,000 seats of unlimited edition, divided between sales and service, about 2,500 sales people and about 1,500 service people. Now, we have 20 distinct sales channels, but one of the mandates we had was that we were to get to one view of the customer, and we were supposed to be able to provide executive reporting. And the only way to do that was to decide on some high-level key performance indicators and then insist that people come into compliance with that, which was something that was a completely new concept. So we put together a set of sales stages and probabilities, and every new sales channel that came on had to adapt to a subset of our stages so that we could talk in executive reportings about things that went together. So we support 20 sales channels, but we have one standard set of processes. We use tons and tons and tons of cases. We have 11 separate processes, and we're doing everything from issue tracking to internal sales support. We have partner resolution. We have some web-to-case applications. We also, internally as a team, all of the implementations and user requests we get, we track using the case system. Very flexible tool. So we had some challenges when we started out with this. We had different systems across the business. In fact, we had 6 separate instances of Salesforce. We had 8 instances of another CRM tool, and then just a smattering of proprietary tools, a few people with chisels in caves. So, of course, that meant we had these incomplete and isolated data sets. Nobody was talking to anyone else. You had your piece of it, but you couldn't see what anyone else was doing. So our sales and our service groups were all working completely independently, and we had discordant data then. So you had taken your data to this step, but another group didn't know that, so they were also taking their data to that step. Or you hadn't gotten there yet, and they were already calling to take someone to the next place, and it was just very out of order. We had very limited integration to our internal First Data systems. We're a slightly conservative company, which all of you should appreciate because you'd like your money and your credit information to be kept very safe. So service as a software was a little scary. This is the first one we've deployed. It was a big battle to get people to agree that this was secure. We still have a very strong mainframe mindset. And then we also have a company-wide platform consolidation effort that's going on that we are competing with. So that's been good and bad. But that was definitely a challenge. And we also have siloed systems, and so every integration we did was a completely new discovery. We weren't able to say, oh, well, you're like the system we just integrated to, so we'll just carry on from there. It was always brand new. So this resulted in having sales on one side and service on the other, Sales couldn't see what happened after they closed a deal, and the service group didn't get the benefit of anything the salespeople had learned while they were closing the deal, so we had very incomplete reporting. We had multiple data entry points. These poor sales reps were entering data here and then entering the same data in another place and then entering it in another place, which also meant that the service people had to go to all those same places to see the data. We had very limited visibility into the risk process because they were, again, in each separate systems. So you would have horror stories of sales reps who were putting together this fantastic cross-sale presentation, and they would walk into a customer who was furious at us at the moment because we had had some service failure with them. And that's never how you want to walk into a sales call, not knowing that this customer is angry. So we've been able to bring that together. We also didn't have any ability to pass on notes. You couldn't give the knowledge, the benefit of what you learned by working through the sales process. And then the service people ended up manually rebuilding that same information in their systems. So today we're going to demo for you one process. And this is our regional sales and installation process. And so this is a group of sales reps who are out in the field. Their office is their car. So before Salesforce.com, they had a very separated system. And we're actually going to demo this, so I'm not going to talk a lot about this. Chris will show it to you. But before, we had these breaks in the system. It took us 2 to 3 days to get a lead that came from one of our referral partners out into the hands of one of these field reps. We then had another whole day in between finding out that that merchant had been credit approved to letting the group that did the welcome call know that the merchant was credit approved and they could call out and do that initial call to get them started. Then there was a whole nother, at least 1 day before the installation folks knew that the welcome call had happened, and they could then call the merchant up and say, so you have your equipment, let's get it set up, let's download your application and get you online so you can start generating revenue. So this was a very lengthy process. With Salesforce.com, we were able to put together an ROI and get BlackBerries for our 800 field sales reps, which we then put the mobile application out on their BlackBerry. And we went from 2 or 3 days to deliver a lead to 2 to 3 minutes. And we've had tremendous success. The AEs like that because a merchant was talking to their banker. Their banker said, would you be interested in learning about acquiring? They said yes, and by the time they're walking out of the bank, their phone is ringing because that sales rep already knows they're interested, and we're hitting them at that moment when they're still interested instead of 2 or 3 days later. We also got it down to where we had near real-time credit approval messages coming in. So as soon as there's a credit approval, it's coming into Salesforce, and it kicks off a case process that lets the welcome call team know you can now call out on this. So we've been able to shrink our SLAs, our service level agreements on those, to be a couple of hours instead of a couple of days. And as soon as the welcome call person finishes and completes their task, it immediately puts another task in the installer's queue, and they can call out that day or the next day to start to get that merchant online, which significantly shortened the time to revenue, which is a pretty good thing to do. Since we put this together last week, we added one more feature to this. The other piece that we get now real time is a message back when our merchant has made their first deposit. They're using now our system in their store. And as soon as that hits our system, we're sending an email to the AE who signed it saying, your merchant is now up and running. And they then have all the information to call that merchant and say, we're so glad, is there anything wrong, are you happy? Oh, and by the way, could you give me the names of 3 of your merchant friends who might also want this product as well? And they've added 1 account per month per sales rep to their quota as a result of us being able to do this additional piece of work last week. So with that, Chris, it's going to be you giving the demo of how we make it happen.
Okay. Well, it's going to be a very quick demo. Celia, I have a little clock down here that tells me when I have to shut up. So, and the clock is rapidly ticking away. So let me quickly get you over to the sales referral system. Now, this is the way that I'm going to take you on a little journey, okay? And the journey is of a lead. And as I say, this is going to be quick, so keep your eyes open. I don't move very fast usually, but this time I might have to move a little quicker. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here real quick. And this item I'm logging into was created to give to to give to our partners so that they could actually enter a lead into the system, and we could work out the assignment of that lead and drop it precisely to the rep in question so that they were able to work it. Case in point, don't talk and type at the same time, Christopher. So this is a system, pretty easy. We give it to our tellers. The tellers come in. I didn't put that one on there, by the way. And so this system, just you enter the lead very quickly. I'm actually not going to bother to do one here because it's going to take too long. I'm going to go ahead and get into Salesforce real quickly for you. So you'd enter some data. We gather this. And this is the service part of this is where we're collecting this lead, and now the processing of this is taking place. And we're going to get it into Salesforce and deliver this within about a couple of minutes to our sales reps. All right, where you hit it, there it is. Now, we use a pretty standard setup in many ways for Salesforce that you're all familiar with. This is our standard homepage, so nothing strange or different here except this little message thing which we use to give message to our Salesforce. So our leads are here. They're pretty standard leads. Nothing is strange or crazy here. But the difference is that these have all come and been delivered via the SRS system within about 2 minutes to the rep. And then for those with their BlackBerries, they actually get the message right on their BlackBerry and they're able to make the call. And as Celia was telling you a little earlier on about the gentleman that was sat across in a coffee shop, this call landed. He was there having a cup of coffee, and that merchant was walking out, and the lead landed, and he picked up the phone, and he called him, and he said, "Oh, I'm across the road in the coffee shop. Come on over. Let's do business." Deal signed. We were done. We'd stopped that merchant from walking into the next branch and going down to do business. So I got to do another little jump here, and I'm sorry I have to move out. But these are pretty standard things. And I'm going to go and now log in as one of our installers and welcome call people. And what these people do is they're the ones that now after we've made this sale and the merchant and our salesperson has actually moved it all through the system and put it to sold, this is now handed off to our welcome call and our installer world. Oh, I hate doing typing and talking at the same time. I'm not good at it. And this is my colleague back in Hagerstown who has the longest password in the world. So pray it works first time. And it did. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick login as Melvin. Now, Melvin is one of our welcome call people. And what I want you to see when I do this is how different Melvin's world is to the salesperson's world. So you can see, first of all, this is where he lands. Melvin starts his day getting up in the morning, and here is his welcome calls. They're all laid out ready for him. Each of these is a sold item that our system has detected and moved into this world. And it says, "Hey, Melvin, go start making phone calls for us today, please." So Melvin can look at these and see, okay, I've got one complete, I've got one being being processed. So I can use the console, which is, they like this. They love the console. This made their world when we turned this on for them. Because they were having to go between a post-sale task. And post-sale task is a custom object that we created to supplement the case process. So you can see with the console, they're able to see their post-sale task, and they're able to see all the information that we have about the merchant in question, all the way down to the case, tells him how many times this has been done, and so on. And a plus benefit to this is that now the sales rep is also seeing all of this. So every time that Melvin does a move here, the sales rep is notified or can watch it and see it happen in real time. If they're sat in front of their screen, they'll see this change happen. So all Melvin has to do to make this thing do what it needs to do is switch it from on hold to completed. He's made his call. He can come down here, and I'm actually going to take one here, and I'm going to put something else in. But you can see he's done the download and training completed. We'll go ahead and save that. And what's happened here is that Melvin has completed his task and it's now handed off. Melvin won't see it again. He's done, his job's finished, he's a happy person, he's met his requirements and he's off. From here, this now drops out and goes to the next person in the chain. So all the time we're passing this information continuously through the system to the next one in the line. All the time, the common thread is the sales rep is able to view this and watch and see things, interact with this. And at certain points in the chain, certain things trigger emails. If, for instance, they're unable to contact this merchant, the sales rep is notified, we can't talk to this person, you need to go and find them. Go track them down, because we need to install the software. So now, as you can see, the post-sale task has changed from a welcome call to an install. And from this point onwards, again, same thing, we would move it out, and this one is already in the download and training completed. And effectively, we've now finished this piece of work. Our merchant has come right from the beginning, from when we had the first discussion. We've gathered your information, we made the deal, we stepped into this, we sold the deal, captured all that information that the sales rep have. We've handed this now to the installer group and the welcome call people who go out and reach out and touch the merchant, and then we're on to our installers. And we compress this process, this whole thing, from what was over a month process to now to within 7 days. And the bottom line there is, as soon as you're processing credit cards, First Data is making money. So by shortening that up, we increased our revenue. So I sort of ran over a little bit, Peter, but there you go.
No, that's brilliant. Thanks,
What did I lose my microphone? I think I did.
Your foot.
There we go. That was exciting. Okay, so let me find something to attach it to. So we're going to talk about the lessons that we learned. I think one of the first things we had to do is we had to clearly define a vision, and one view was our vision, and that caught on. People knew what that meant. When we said we want one view of the customer, they said, oh, okay, we can get behind that. It was easy to sell. It was easy to get them to standardize. You have to bring the sales and service teams together to talk about the various handoff points. But when you do that, don't let the current complexities of what they do, because there are some processes out there that I'm sure all of you have in your companies too, where you go, really? Do we really have to do that? So don't let what they're doing now overly influence how you design. Step away from them. Find out from them what they do, but then step away and put together your design, because you know Salesforce and you're the Salesforce expert. They are not. And if you let them dictate to you what you build in Salesforce, you will kill yourselves trying to build what they've asked you for, because they will ask you for some crazy, crazy things. And then finally, require each business unit to have a single point of contact. We have heard it a lot of CATs, and that doesn't work well. You need to go to them and say, if this is important to you, you need to designate 1 or 2 people that will interact with our team and who will have the responsibility and the availability of the people they need to get with in your organization to get this done and to get it done right. So those are really our biggest lessons that we learned. Is that fast enough?
Okay, now we've got Jeremy Boyles, and he's a manager from Stericycle, to give you their view of the world of how they use Salesforce.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Peter. So Stericycle, what do? We are, thank you, a medical waste management firm. That is our primary business. So for those of you, you've gone to the doctor, you've gone to the hospital, you wonder what happens to the little red container you see, or the Sharps container up on the wall. Well, that's what my company takes care of. We actually process it, and then eventually it ends up in the landfill. So that is our primary business, but we also have a couple of secondary businesses. We do product recall and return. So if a large company has a product recall, we can actually take care of that for them, actually take it off the market, a reverse distribution model, if you will. And then within my business unit, we have an OSHA consulting business in which we actually help our customers, primarily doctors and dentists, become OSHA compliant and create a safe workplace for their employees. So from a Salesforce perspective, we have over 600 users domestically using the Unlimited Edition. We have an extensive use of workflow from both case perspective as well as sales. And then we have integrated custom web application, which what we are going to demo today, which we called Stats, which actually is an application that helps our OSHA specialists set up their appointments with our customers. So what were the business challenges around this, and why did we build this application? Well, one of the things that we've learned with our customers is that as soon as a sale is made, and we've offered them this service, they need to make that appointment very quickly. And the old system that we had built, which I'm a little embarrassed to say, but it was actually originally built on an Access 97 database. So perhaps some of you have built applications on that platform in the past, and we did it as a stopgap, but then all of a sudden that stopgap became the solution for a very long time, unfortunately. So we wanted to be able to schedule the appointment very quickly. Unfortunately, our customer information was only integrated twice a week. So our specialists would only get that information twice a week whenever a new customer was ready for his or her appointment. The other thing, when you have an Access 97 application, it doesn't really support a whole organization of users using it at the same time. So if we couldn't actually give it to our sales team, we couldn't give it to our customer service team. So if a customer would call and say, hey, I would like to know when my specialist is going to come see me, our customer service team would be like, I'm sorry, I can't actually view that information. Let me take a note. I will try to contact your specialist and have him or her call you back. So it was very disconnected. Same thing with sales. You close the salesperson's very excited, he's won this sale, and then what's the customer's next question? Great, when can my specialist be here? Well, the salesperson could never answer that. Typically the answer was, it'll probably be in the next 2 to 8 weeks. It's kind of like when the cable guy comes to visit you. So it didn't make for a very pleasant customer experience. So as I said, our technology challenges, really, it was just around the platform on which we had built the previous solution. The other thing that was really difficult for us, because we had to push changes out to our field specialists, I had one resource working for me, so even if we wanted to change something as simple as a form, she would have to set up an appointment with all now 45 specialists and physically push the change to that person, which would take an hour. So just to do something very simple, it would take about 40 to 45 hours just to roll the change out, not to mention the amount of time it took for development. So what was the impact on the business? Well, it's pretty clear. New customers who had just signed up for this premier service, they were definitely dissatisfied with the scheduling process, and they told us about it. As I mentioned before, inability of sales and customer service to really set expectations with the customer for when their appointment was going to occur. And finally, from a management perspective, we had no way of tracking of when the specialist had made the appointment. Did they make the appointment, within a reasonable amount of time? Were they having a hard time getting in touch with the customer? So we really didn't have a good mechanism by which to track and train the reps to see how well they were performing. So at this time, I'm going to have Ben Gray come up and do a quick demonstration of the application that we built.
All right, hello everybody. I'm going to go through here real quick and just do a quick run through of some of this information here for you. I'm going to walk through the process in terms of what our specialists see when they come to log into Salesforce here. So, all right. Okay, so we're going to go on ahead and just say we're going to pretend to be one of our specialists here, Diane. When Diane would log in to Salesforce, they would have a simple link up here that's just simply launching the stats program, which brings up the application that is a majority of the time that they spend on Salesforce. One of the things that you'll notice here is that they have a list of users that they can select from. This is if they are scheduling their own appointments or if they have volunteered to schedule for another one of our specialists. They have the opportunity to look at their book of business as opposed to their own. In this case, we're going to go on ahead and log in there. Now, after the data pulls up here, give it a moment to pull up all this information. What it's actually doing is this is an Adobe Flex app that's pulling all of their currently scheduled appointments from the Salesforce system directly. And you'll notice they have all of this information set up in front of them. It's all nice and color-coded so they know which of their appointments are coming up due, which of their appointments are late. I'm going to go on ahead and select one of these so you can kind of have an idea. Down here in the bottom right, you'll notice how each appointment has its own collection of notes. Information that they can write down and add if they need to. You'll notice the customer name, the customer account information is down here and available, as well as contact information specifically for these doctors, just in case that contact information is different from the account information on Salesforce. If at any point they need to update that contact information, they can most definitely do so. Let's just say go on ahead and change some of this stuff so you can see some things. And then we can go on ahead and just change that information, which goes on ahead and submits that information back to Salesforce in real time. Now let's say we wanted to go on ahead. They wanted to take this customer and schedule an appointment. So they'll go on ahead and schedule an appointment, except it's in administrative review, so they can't do that. So let's pick another one and do that one instead. Let's go with this one here. We're going to go on ahead and do this again. Pardon me for a second. Change that information. And successfully submitted. Now, I'm going ahead and schedule an appointment. Notice how they have the ability to select the type of training, be it a bloodborne pathogens training or an actual mock OSHA inspection. They have the ability to select a scheduled date for this. Let's say they're going to do it tomorrow at, let's just say 7 a.m. They have an estimated number of attendees, confirmation, thank you for scheduling. And when they do that and they hit the Get Scheduled button, it'll go on ahead and submit that to, it'll go on ahead and submit that. The pop-up window that's supposed to come up here, and it looks like it wasn't going to come on up, it was actually an integration to Outlook Calendar, so that when they scheduled that appointment would immediately appear on their Outlook Calendar or on G Calendar or whatever they chose to, so they would have that schedule available to them. One of the other things that it does, while we're sitting here, I'm going to go on ahead and log into this, is that when you do this, it also sends to our customer a email letting them know when their appointment is and all of that information. One moment here. And it's not going to come in today, so we'll just wait on that. It'll come there in a second. Anyway, let's see here. We also have the ability, obviously, as you can see, to show their history, their information. They can complete these appointments in this system after the trainings are completed. We also have a invoicing for these specialists so that they can submit this information to us for payment so we can compensate them for their services as trainers. One of the things that we also have is that for that information, I'm going to go on ahead and log in as one of our managers instead, who these managers are people who each region has a manager that handles these specialists. They actually have a dashboard in Salesforce that lets them keep track of the specialists that work for them, letting them know if there are any aging buckets that are due, things that are past due, or things that are significantly past due in certain circumstances. Let's see if that email came through yet. It looks like it's not going to go through today. My Gmail might be a little slow. It looks like that is the majority of that. So, do you have anything else?
Great.
Head back over there for you.
Thanks, Ben. So, what were the results of the implementation of this application? Well, the first thing that we were able to do, actually, so the first bullet I said, reduce the number of late appointments for new customers. That is absolutely true. But even prior to that, now we know how many late appointments that we have. So by implementing this application, we can now, this is actually something that we can track, and we can track it on a daily basis and not look at it, 2 months down the road, 6 months down the road, and then have a customer call us and say, hey, hey, you never scheduled your appointment with us. So now we have visibility to it and we can manage to it. We've also, for each customer who has one of these mock OSHA inspections performed, they receive a survey. And as part of that survey, we ask them about, how did everything go? How was the process? How was the scheduling? Did your specialist call you and schedule the appointment when he or she are within your expectation? And so we're starting to see those scores to start to go up. So that's very nice. The other thing that this has enabled us to do is improve customer retention rates. Now, for all of us, we've probably all experienced some customer retention issues in the last year, given the challenging economy that we have. For those of us who work in competitive industries like Stericycle, price is always something that people are looking to cut and to save money. And so this is actually a value-add service. This is something that separates us from our competition, this preferred service. So one of the things that has enabled us to do is oftentimes the person who's looking at their invoice or their bill from us isn't the person who is benefiting from this preferred service. So what we can, when they call and say, well, hey, your competitor is offering a lower rate. And we can say, well, the reason that they can offer a lower rate is you're actually on one of our preferred programs. And when that customer says, well, I don't even know what I'm getting for that because, this person is an AP person and not the office manager necessarily. So we can actually tell them, well, you know what, we were there a month ago, and these are the people that we worked with. Can we talk to the OSHA manager there at your facility? And what we found is that when we can do that and we can demonstrate that, hey, this is an actual value-add service and the customer is very satisfied with it, we tend to be able to retain those customers at a much higher level. So in the past, when the customer service didn't have the view to this information, it was really difficult for us to pinpoint exactly the last time we were there and the services that we offered and the result of those services. So it's actually helped us improve customer retention. From a system perspective, the development it is so fast, and it is so fast for us to deploy, which is even more important. When people come to us and say, hey, I don't think this is working. We found a bug, or we want to make a change. Ben is very good about taking that, fixing it, and deploying it, and essentially the deployment occurs overnight. So just like for any of you who have done a Force.com application, you understand that, you understand the power of that. Finally, as a result of building on this platform, our environment changes quite a bit. We are driven by government regulations. If an OSHA regulation changes, we need to know about it so that we can make changes to this program so that we can ensure that our customers are OSHA compliant as well. So in doing this, we can actually drive those changes through this program to enable our reps to have the most up-to-date information. So what did we learn? Well, it's not too different from most application deployments that you have. Number one, identify champions to help you to provide input and to help you with early adoption. One of the mistakes that we made is we actually, out of convenience, we chose people who work in our office as opposed to trying to bring in some of the folks who were geographically dispersed. So what we found is they were a bit disconnected from the people who were away from the central office. So one of the things that we learned is, hey, when you're going to change someone's world this much, identify not only a champion, but identify the right champion. Schedule both hands-on or both group and individual hands-on training. We had only allowed for 1 2-hour training session when we rolled this out to the team just because of the disparate nature of the group in terms of their geographic disbursement. So we brought everybody in. They were having their annual meeting, and we allowed 2 hours to do the training. It went okay, but what we found was we ended up scheduling 1-hour training sessions 2 to 3 times per week for each rep after that. The other thing, as with any application, even though this is a wonderful platform and Ben is a great programmer, we did have bugs. And one of the things that we found, the faster that the bugs are identified and fixed, the happier the people are with the application. Nobody expected perfection, but they do expect you to fix something whenever they've brought an issue to your attention. So just like your customers expect that, the people that we support out in the field expect that as well. Finally, one thing that we've done is we've already started planning for Stats 2.0, and hopefully, very soon we'll have a mobile device or a mobile rollout for this application. But one of the things that it's made folks excited or made the field excited is that we've started to bring those people in to talk to them about, hey, now that you've seen what we can do, what would you like? What are your future requirements for this application? And believe me, you will not have a shortage of good ideas for the next rollout. So that's the other thing. It's kept them hooked. They understand it, and it's actually helped us drive adoption very well.
Here I thought I was going to be introduced. Sorry. That's me. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate anything for you. We've already had great examples from Stericycle and from First Data about within business reasons why sales and customer service need to be integrated. So I'm going to invite you to do something a little different. For the next couple of minutes, do not think like a sales manager, do not think like an IT professional, don't think like a customer service manager. Think like a customer. I'm going to ask you a question that I'm guessing all of you can answer yes to. Who in this room has spoken with another person about a bad customer service experience you've had? You don't have to raise your hands because you all have, and if you say no, you're lying. Now, let's get into the slides, shall we? New customers are kind of like plastic explosive. Your mom probably told you when you were young that you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and the reason she told you this was because it is true. A customer who is a new customer is very variable. Depending on what their experience is like, they can be thrilled with what happened, they can be livid with how things went. This is going to last very long. They are fragile. If it went badly, that bad taste in their mouth is going to stick with them forever. And, as all of you know, if it goes poorly, and even if it goes well, they're going to talk to their friends about it. Now, this explains why your selling process is going to have an effect on how customer service goes. First of all, obviously, customers don't talk to customer service until they're customers. You should be able to figure that part out, I'm pretty sure. So your service reps are going to need to know ahead of time what sales is selling, what sort of message they are pushing to the customer, how they're selling it, and what they're selling, so that there can be a little bit of planning ahead. If you have just rolled out a new initiative and there's a particular product that you're trying to push or a particular service that you're trying to hype, and all of a sudden calls start coming into the contact center and they're not ready for it, you are going to have a pretty nasty snarl. Same thing, if you have promised certain features or functions that aren't there, your customer service people are going to find out about it. And they're going to find out about it in a very bad way. I can share a personal example here. Does anyone here work for a cable TV service? I hope not, especially if you're working for Roadrunner, because, well, I am in New York, and that is who the cable internet provider is, along with Time Warner Cable. I don't mean to speak ill of them, because Time Warner Cable is wonderful. Their internet service, however, is not the same across all the different regions in New York. I was in one of the bad regions. I had multiple problems trying to get my internet working. It was down much more than it was up. I received different answers for why things were going wrong, depending on who I called and when I called. So eventually I got fed up, changed providers. I stayed with them for far too long because I'm a sucker. I admit this. After I had canceled the service, probably within a couple of weeks, I got a call from Time Warner Cable asking if I wanted to upgrade to a triple play, including the cable internet service and telephone. You can imagine how I reacted, and I'm sure you can imagine how you would react in that similar situation. This is why service leads to sales. If things are going wrong at the customer service end, if customers are complaining about a product, about a service, about the way your field reps are handling things, sales needs to know about it, because if they try to go after a customer who is in danger of flipping, you're going to chase them away just that much faster. However, the flip side of that is that excellent service, understanding what that customer is going through, being helpful, getting the resources lined up, and possibly even bringing the salespeople back in on that call is going to make that customer feel like you're taking care of them. And I know that the first day the people mentioned loyalty. Peter mentioned loyalty. There's something even more important than loyalty, and that is advocacy. People talk, and there is no better benefit for your company than having a customer tell all the people like him or her about how wonderful you are. They're going to take a look at you just out of loyalty to their friends. You've probably all heard of the Net Promoter Score. That's one of the measures of customer advocacy. There are others. It remains to be said that there's a reason we're measuring these things, and it's because it's really, really important. Another thing, if any of you are contact center managers, you know that your reps have been asked to do more than they ever have had to do before, to speed things up, to help drive extra revenue. Your reps are being asked to sell products, to cross-sell, to upsell, if not to go out and actually drum up business themselves. They were not necessarily trained to do that. Salespeople, however, kind of have a knack in that area. So whenever you can get salespeople, service people talking to one another, they're going to be better able to get the customer to do a little bit more for you. It's especially a natural relationship for them. Customer service and sales have something in common. They're both used to dealing one-on-one with your customers. It's a natural fit. So we're talking about collaboration, and I would like to point out I put the slide together before I knew about Chatter. So forgive me if it seems, a little out of line with what you may have just heard the other day. If your service people are the first line of contact with the social media that are out there, customers are on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they're on YouTube, and anyone here can share a number of stories I'm sure they've heard about YouTube videos that hurt a company or helped a company. If customer service is there, they can spot those problems as they're happening. If they're watching the Twitter feed, you can see the complaints. And you know that you have to do something about that. Social media, social CRM also enables you to more easily get that collaborative call that I was talking about with the customer service rep and the sales agent together on the same call, because making somebody wait for an answer is never going to work as well as getting the answer right now. I'll get back to you is not fast enough anymore. So pretty much there it is. If you can answer a question with a tweet or a quick text message to the guy on the other side of the wall, you are going to be showing that you're taking better care of your customers. If you're taking better care of your customers, they're going to take better care of you. And I hope that you will all be able to bring that into your own business operations the way that Stericycle and First Data have. Maybe I should have said that in the other direction. You guys did go first, after all. And I think that's the last thing I have. Key takeaways. These are Peter's slides, and I'm going to sit down now. We have questions.
That's great. Thanks.
Sorry about that, mate.
No worries at all. Cheers. Okay, so bang on the 10-minute mark. So what I'd like to very quickly do is summarize what we've just heard there, and then we'll go straight into Q&A as well. I think some things which I quickly took away from the presentation are, one, the way where Celia said that, in fact, you guys as basically the people who are implementing your CRM solutions based on Salesforce in your companies. If you can just imagine if you could go to your sales organization and say, and I'm sure maybe a lot of you are the sales organization, but say by having a single system for both sales and service, we can enable you to increase your quotas and actually put more money and get more revenue into the business. Now the AEs and the sales guys may not like that, but of course I'm sure the managers will. The second thing which I heard was from Jeremy's presentation was just around that initial point of before they put the system in, they didn't even know where they were going wrong. And I think there's probably only one area, one way of being worse than that is if you're getting obviously data coming in that's forcing you to take the wrong decisions, but not knowing, having data in front of you so you can actually take the right decisions to fix those problems is obviously a really big issue. Okay, questions and answers. Who's got the first question? Wow, that was quick. If you could make your way to the microphone, that'd be really, really useful, just so they can get it on the recording.
I have 3 questions rolled into one for the First Data team. I'm curious to know how big is the implementation team for your Salesforce implementation? How long did it take you? And most important, how did you go about the business process optimization before you went for the implementation?
So we're actually fairly lucky. My team is extremely skilled and large. We're a big company. We also have more systems than just Salesforce. So I actually have 17 people on my team, and I have engineers, I have a reporting team, and then I have the system administration team, some trainers, and some project coordinators. We started off, we actually converted 3,200 users from their various systems in the year of 2008. I don't recommend doing that. We had an 8-week implementation cycle, and it's possible, unless you like sleep or, calm. So we now have a 16-week implementation cycle. I recommend this one much more highly. It's working out much better for us. What was the third question? I think
process optimization.
Oh, so really, I think that is more kind of, when I made the point about don't let what they're doing now influence what you design, I think that was really the important part for us. We started off really letting them dictate what we did, and finally we said, they are asking us to do things that are ridiculous. We just can't do them. It's not the smart way to do it. And so we kind of said, well, why are we letting them tell us how to do it? We are the people who understand the system. And so we started saying, okay, tell us why you want to be able to do that. What is the result you're looking for? And then we took those results and went away from them and talked internally and said, what can we deliver to them that would give them that, but not kill us in trying to design it? And so that's really what we did. We didn't let them be part of that design phase. They gave us requirements. We did the design and went back and showed it to them.
Okay, follow-up question on that design. Did you guys use any bottleneck study or time motion study as part of the optimization?
We do. We have quite a lot of documentation. So we have a business requirements document that we start off with because that's usually what the business people can help us with. They know what they need. They know their end results. We would have them do a process flow in Visio, for example, to say it comes in here and these people do this. And that was much easier for a lot of the business people. They're very visual. So they liked that process flow. We turned that into business requirements. Once they agreed we had covered everything, we would then go away and design, do the technical requirements, and go back to them and say, here's how we're solving that for you. And then from there, they're able to take that technical requirements document and parse it out to the different people on their team and say, you have requirements 1.1 through 1.5, and they had a discrete piece of work to go and do, and that really helped us get through there.
The benefit, blimey, that's loud. One of the benefits of actually making them do that first document and flow that out in a Visio was how many times they suddenly realized their process was very weird. To put it bluntly, they were doing things that suddenly they realized they don't need to do this. And because we were asking certain questions, it prompted them to change that flow, and this became a collaboration effort between us. And then when we came back with the design, we were streamlining that process.
Thank you. Okay. Next question? No?
We've got one.
I guess it could be for either of you. Where did the need for implementing a Salesforce tool like this originate from? Was it from the executive level seeing, the growth in the future, or was it more from the your sales and service departments not being able to handle their current obligations?
The original genesis of this type of product into First Data was driven by one of our partners who requested better information. They needed to know what was happening to their leads and how it came in. And then when we supported that, that started the business sales organization to realize how valuable this data was. And that in turn supported more and more. So there was this growth, but it was originally driven from a partner of ours saying, we need better information. And that's how it was driven.
For us, it was, we had, about 5 years ago, we embarked upon creating a new business or a sales model within our organization. Before we had a field sales service, we actually moved our organization into an inside sales service. And so when we did that, we were looking at various, SFAs as, to help us go through that. We didn't have anything at the time, so we really needed something that we could implement fast, that we didn't have to necessarily own the infrastructure, so to speak. That would help us. First we went with Salesforce automation, and then eventually once we had rolled that out, about a year later, we did a case implementation. So we pretty much became fully dependent on Salesforce at that point.
Sounds to me like in all cases, the need was driven by people who actually had their hands on the system, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Any more questions? No, I think that's it in that case. You've got, in that case, a 2 minutes and 29 seconds head start to get back to the expo. So thanks very much for attending, and I hope you enjoyed the session and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.